And in this sort of dark period, I was also very embarrassed. Superficially, my life was good. And so I didn't want to admit to anybody that I didn't want to wake up and do it again. And so I spent a lot of days lying, hiding, and faking, investing a lot of energy pretending that I was happier, more successful, and more in control than I felt. It's not a good way to live a life. And so it was the journey that I went on to sort of solve my own problem that I made this discovery based on brain decision-making, not some management theory, that every single one of us, every single organization on the planet functions on 3 levels. What we do, how we do it, I realized until I answered that question. What I did, and I knew I would be made me stand out in the marketplace or in the crowd, but I couldn't tell you why. I was troubled that I...
Was it an epiphany? Was it a gradual gnawing? At you that just was like, I gotta do this?
I reached a point where I really hated my work, and yet I was doing the same thing that I've been doing for years.
What were you doing at the time?
I had a marketing consultancy at the time, and we had good clients, we had grade A clients. GE was one of them back in the day, and we did great work. Silicon, I could find no joy.
We now know why.
That doesn't even exist anymore. It was much more of an evolution. It was so powerful and so effective in my life at restoring my passion. That I immediately shared it with my friends. And my friends wanted me to share it with their friends. And people just kept inviting me to help them find their why. And I just kept saying yes. And that it's literally been a completely organic journey. I wake up every single day to inspire people to do what inspires them. I imagine a day and weeks and change our world for the better. Every single morning inspired to go to work, feel safe, and I have a vision of the world that does not yet exist.
Can you say that again? I think it's so powerful.
Yeah.
So feel safe.
Inspired to go to work in the morning, feel safe when they're there, and return home fulfilled at the end of the day, which means there have to be something that calls us. It's not a job; it's a calling. It literally calls us to work in the morning. That our leaders have created environments in which we feel that people have our backs, that people want to see us grow, that we can take responsible risks, that we can admit when we've made mistakes. We don't have to hide them and wait for them to compound. We can admit when there are gaps in our training and ask for the company to fill those gaps. That we can compete with each other rather than against each other. This is what work should be like. The irony is, it's actually the way capitalism is designed to work. And the companies that are able to create these kinds of cultures are more innovative. They outperform their competition over the long term. They're much more stable. They have lower churn numbers with their employees. They tend to be 80 to higher functioning organizations. Say that's the great irony of my work they love, which is though those are depressing numbers, it's actually good for business. It's none of the things that I and those like me are difficult. I think the reason companies don't do it, quite frankly, because that's the big question. Why don't they do it? Because it's not brain surgery.
But it must be. It's hard.
It's the same discipline as being a parent, which is it's a practice. It's the same discipline as getting into shape or eating healthy. You cannot go to the gym for 9 hours and get into shape. But if you work out every single day for 20 minutes, you will get into shape. This is the same thing. Building a strong corporate culture is more about consistency than intensity. And because of external pressures, and sometimes internal pressures, companies just prefer to apply intensity to solve problems. So layoffs, for example, on an annualized basis, are just easier because I can commit the action and I can show you the savings the next day. You're going to be in shape. Actually building strong, but I know for a fact, which is a discipline that I can't tell you, like going to the gym. And the other problem is companies like to solve problems and then go on to the next thing. Again, intensity versus consistency. Like going to the gym, like eating healthy. Once you're in shape, you actually have to keep going to the gym and keep eating healthy. You don't get to stop. It is a daily practice forever. Like being a good parent. Like I don't know what day your kids are going to turn out great. I just know you have to be a good parent every day of your life. And you can screw up, but on balance, the consistency is more important than intensity. Taking your kids to Disneyland once doesn't make your kids grow up with a strong set of values and strong confidence. And I think companies, given external pressures and how goals are becoming more and more short-term, they choose the expedient over the responsible. I think what's really important is to be reminded constantly of the context. In other words, the daily grind is not in a vacuum, and it serves a higher purpose, and we must be reminded of that. So I've surrounded myself with that when we connect with stories and quotes, who are the recipients, and people around me who are constantly reminding in the world, we're more likely. There's some wonderful studies on this to commit to that cause. In other words, when it becomes less abstract, it's not about words on the wall. For example, there was Wharton did a study where there was a group of volunteers who worked to raise money for a scholarship. So they worked the phone banks, and they brought in any number of consultants to rewrite the script for them with minor impact. And what the researchers did is they brought in one of the recipients of the scholarship to talk to the volunteers. You ready for this? For 5 minutes.
Wow.
And the numbers improved 300%.
Wow.
Because I could
That's
connect.
a pretty good return.
I could connect my work to a human being.
Yeah.
Wells Fargo gave it a try, where there's a loan department, a small business loan department, somewhere in the South or Midwest, and dramatically increased numbers because it wasn't about the script, it wasn't about the sales numbers. It was about being able to connect my work to a human being, which gives my work meaning and value.
Yeah.
And they focused less on the monthly numbers and more on the people, and lo and behold, the numbers went up.
It's so counterintuitive. I mean, I think you see this in companies all the time. Who gets out of bed for a number? Very few people. I mean, even if you're the CFO of a company or in finance, you do it for more than just the number.
There are some people who do it for the short-term selfish gains, and though they may get the numbers, it doesn't breed joy, it doesn't breed fulfillment, and at the end of the day, it doesn't breed love or loyalty, and it becomes a transactional relationship, which is not a fulfilling one for anyone.
So I was thinking that, right?
So look, leaving it is always an option, but the good news, it's not the only option, and it's not always the best option. We get this question a fair bit, to be honest with you, which is I'm in middle management. Don't worry about senior management doesn't get it. You can't control that. Worry about the things you can control. What do I do? And the answer is every single morning with a single focus, a single purpose, to inspire the people to the left of you, to inspire the people to the right of you, to ensure that the people with whom you work, even if it's your boss, one level up, to ensure that the people with whom you work love coming to work. You commit yourself to being that leader. And what you find is these little pockets of beauty that show up inside businesses. And they tend to be higher performing, they tend to have better retention, they tend to be more innovative, their numbers tend to improve, and the people who work there tend to really love working there. We saw this happen at Microsoft. This was in the Bomber days. There was a small little operations group, small budget, 10 or 20 million, with a small team, maybe 10 or 15 people, and they committed to taking care of each other. They committed to this leadership journey.
Did they say it out loud to
yes,
each other?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
They all
It became
a point that they said we got to trust each other.
I went in to work with the leader of that group to help them articulate their why, to help them understand their hows and how to build a culture around each other and around people. And not only did they become something like a $90 or $100 million unit with 100 people that very quickly, the thing that I found that none of us expected was word got out in the company. And the phone started ringing from all across Microsoft saying, how do I get a job in your group? Because it turned out people would talk about how much they loved going to work, and other people got jealous. They wanted to work there too. So that was something none of us expected that I'm actually really proud of. I'm a great proponent of having a leadership buddy. Leadership is very difficult, and it often comes with great personal sacrifice. Speaking truth to power comes with risk. Putting yourself in between a toxic leader to protect your people means you could get in trouble or lose your job. The risks are very real. And just as a good family often has two people, to help raise the family because it's easier, so does good businesses have partnerships.
Yeah.
And good leaders, there's a leadership buddy. I strongly recommend that whether it's a colleague or a friend or somebody outside, that you commit to seeing someone who you believe in becoming the great kind of leader that you know the world needs. So it's not about asking, it's about giving. It can
So
be,
give me an example of how that might.
so you may have a friend that you admire, that you think really gets this stuff. Call them up and say, I want to be by your side, I want to be at your back. I know that what you do is hard, and sometimes it's lonely, and sometimes you're frustrated. Call me.
That's such a good point. People don't often recognize that.
Leadership
people,
because dangerous
they
things,
want
you need
friends.
a buddy.
They
Leadership
want
is dangerous,
someone, especially when
difficult,
they're
and
doing
hard.
risky.
Sometimes thankless and lonely. You don't go scuba diving by yourself. You don't go hiking by yourself. You have to do it with someone. Not to mention the fact that it makes us much more courageous. A trapeze artist, a world-famous trapeze artist, would never try a brand new death-defying act without a net for the first time. You be that net. And that actually gives someone courage to do difficult things. And here's the best part. If you commit yourself to seeing that someone else rises to become a great leader, they will see that you become a great leader too. It becomes a real partnership. But you've got to have a leadership buddy. I have leadership buddies. We call each other up. We ask for help. We call each other up when we're angry and frustrated. I get to vent to my leadership buddy, not to my team. I get it all out. And so to know your own personal why helps you as an individual navigate where you belong, helps you understand where you're a good fit, and more important, it helps you understand your unique contribution to your neighborhood, to your city, to your state, to your nation. I mean, it builds all the way up. Millennials, yes, like any generation, there's positives and negatives that come just from the times in which they grew up. Millennials have a huge advantage over the rest of us, which is they've grown up in a public-facing social media world, and they have an instinct and a knowledge about personal branding. They're very good at it. They understand what it means. They don't have to be taught what branding is. They're just naturally good branders. And I think older generations should really ask them for advice on branding. They're naturally very good at it, or push them in those kinds of jobs. If they're interested, because they're naturally very good at it. I think people in power need to take more risks than millennials. We keep telling them, you're the future, but you're the future leaders. But we keep saying you're the future leaders, but we're the leaders now. And so the question is, are we creating environments that allow them to take a healthy risk, fall, and be told to try again? And unfortunately, in too many organizations where layoffs have become such a normal way of doing business, it creates environments where people aren't going to take healthy risk. They'd rather take the safe road because they don't. All great leaders at every level. The ones who are just starting their leadership journey, the ones who are well advanced on their journey. Every single one of them is a student of leadership. It is a practice. It is not a rank. It is not an expertise, it is a daily practice, like eating healthy or going to the gym.
So you can always get better, you can always try a different way.
And everyone has the capacity to be a leader. It's like being a parent. Everyone has the capacity to have a child. It doesn't mean everybody should raise a child. It doesn't mean everybody wants to raise a child, right? Having the kid is the fun part, raising the kid is the hard part. Getting the promotion is wonderful. Being the leader, really, really hard work. Everybody has the capacity, but you have to want to be a leader. It is the first criteria. And like I said, you never will be an expert. And all of the people I know, we talk about the subject. We are both interested in the subject. We're both asking each other questions, telling each other stories. We all read books, we read articles, we watch talks and documentaries. We are absolutely consumed and fascinated by the subject, which is why we want to be on this journey. And so anybody who wants to be a leader needs to start being a student of it. The amazing thing is, the vast majority of companies do not understand the game they're in, which means they're all racing to zero. And if you think about it, right, something like 80% of the Dow Index are companies that are 35 years or younger. And even many of the old companies aren't really old companies. Like JP Morgan Chase, for example, is such a mishmash of conglomerations and hobbled together, and the names they choose, they could have picked any name, but they picked the old name. In other words,
G's probably pretty pure to that. 130 years old, 120.
Is it really the company that Thomas Edison founded? Maybe.
Yeah.
But the point is the number of old companies is really small.
Yeah.
And so my question is,
it is.
Why are there no old companies?
Yeah.
You know, the railroads went out of business. They were the biggest, most successful companies of the day. Why are there no companies? And it's because most organizations or leaders of organizations don't actually understand the rules of the world, the rules of business in which they operate. And so if you play by the wrong rules, you eventually lose.
So